I'd like to introduce Maupin, a local organizer for FIST and a member of Workers' World Party, and following his remarks, we will all sing the international anthem. Woo! Thanks.
Well, I know that Dennis Kucinich and some of the figures in the more left-leaning parts of the government have come up with International Day of Peace. I think they got it through the UN, this International Day of Peace. But May Day is the day that we celebrate, I wouldn't call it war, but conflict. May Day is the day we celebrate the struggle between the workers and the bosses, and that's how Marxist-Leninists, myself, and Workers' World Party view it. Now, the way I view May Day as a celebration of the struggle is if you come to understand that at the top of this society, at the very top of the world, there sits a ruling class who holds all the wealth, all the governments, all the media, all the banks, and all the factories in their hands, and that this ruling class is slaughtering people all over the world, in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, places like that this ruling class does everything it can to divide us with racism, with neurotypical supremacy that I spoke of, with sexism, with anti-gay bigotry, with immigrant bashing, and we've tried. They do everything they can to divide us. And in the world that this ruling class presides over, 30,000 children die every day of starvation. If you can come to understand that this government, and when people are dying of starvation, pays farmers not to grow more food because it will screw up the international market or something. If you can understand that, you can understand that May Day is a day of struggle. It's a day of the struggle of the masses of people against this ruling class that is perpetuating these crimes. And the founder of Workers' World Party, Sam Marcy, called it a global class war, and that was his thesis on founding the party. And what we seek as Marxists is we seek the seizing of society by the people. We seek the seizing of the means of production. The factories, the farms, and the banks should belong to the masses of people in their millions. They shouldn't belong to this elite who has control, who is able to exploit and to perpetuate murder and destruction for profit. It should belong to the masses of people. That's what socialists advocate. That's what Marxist-Leninists have advocated all throughout since Karl Marx. And even before that, there were various socialist trends throughout history. That's what we advocate. So now, what I'm going to focus here on tonight is more on revolutionary theory, because it's now a question of how do we bring this about? How do we carry out the transfer of society into the hands of the people? What do we have to do to bring that about? And I guess it's going to take what we would call a social revolution. Okay. Now, a social revolution is different than a political revolution. We have a political revolution every 8 years or so. We get a new government into power, but it's the same figures speaking for the exact same ruling class and the exact same thing, and nothing really changes. We get new people. So I guess it's a political revolution, right? Something changes, but it's not a social revolution. A social revolution is a change that brings about change for all of society. Now, we can look back. There's a history of social revolutions. There was the social revolutions that brought about capitalism. Before capitalism, there was feudalism. And those were social revolutions. The American Revolution was a social revolution. You have the American revolutionaries. They were bourgeois. They were slave owners. They're not nice people. Don't get me wrong. But they made a revolution to overthrow feudalism because they felt their system was next. And what they did is they organized. They organized what were called the House of Burgesses. That was in Virginia, I believe. They organized the Continental Congresses. They had committees of correspondence. They got everybody organized. There was a crisis, and they built up this new pole of power around capitalism and around the new merchant industrial class. And they built up this new pole of power, and a crisis came, and they seized on it, and they made a revolution. And centralized, and now we got ourselves where we are now, and I say we need another revolution. We need a revolution to overthrow capitalism. So, how do we do this? And it really comes down to this. There are some folks on the left. I guess everyone on the left agrees that if you're a Marxist or a revolutionary, you agree that we need socialism. But how do we get there? You have some folks who say the way we get there is we get there through voting, and we get there through talking to the politicians, and we get there through gradually doing that. And I'd say they're wrong. And there's another trend that says there's nothing short of an armed seizure of power that will solve the day. There's no point in organizing. You just got to, stand on the sidelines and preach to everybody that there's going to be this great armed overthrow, and eventually this crisis will come. That doesn't work either. What we need to do is we need to build hold of power of our own, a new strength of the working class. And right now in Detroit, which is where I'll be spending my summer working for the party, is we're organizing councils of the evicted people who are losing their homes, that are being thrown out of their homes. We're organizing them. We've actually gotten to the point where they're putting people back in their homes. And people are being put back in their homes under the leadership of Marxist-Leninists, and they're being empowered to take this. And basically what we need to do is we need to build up this new pole of power. We need to build ourselves up so we're strong enough that we can have an alternative direction. People can look at capitalism and they can say this is wrong, and a crisis is deepening every day with the unemployment and things like that. We've got to build up our strength, and we've got to build it up, and to the point that when the crisis comes and people aren't going to take this anymore, there's a whole pole of power of Marxist-Leninists and revolutionaries who can seize power, and we can bring about, and we can seize the means of production, and we can build a society that's worth living in, where people have the right to a job, and where there's true democracy, because there's not a ruling class that exploits and owns the banks and factories. And one experience we have is the experience of the Russian Revolution. Now, in the Russian Revolution, you have what are called Soviets and workers' councils. They were formed prior to the Russian Revolution. And they were new institutions. And they were democratic bodies, and they took over factories. They organized a people's police force. They organized workers' schools, which to re-educate the mass of the people, contrary to the schools the Tsar was having them. They printed newspapers, which we've already done. We've got our newspaper, The Workers' World. I hope we'll pick up one here today. And they built up the strength. And so when the crisis came, Tsarist Russia and the Tsar was swept into the dustbin of history. And you got the Soviet Union. These Soviets took over, and you had a workers' state, a workers' community. And it was the Soviet Union. The Soviets came to power. So what we have to do is we have to build up new institutions of power that we can defend the people's interest with here. And basically, one key thing is we have to defend the right to self-defense. People have the right to defend themselves. The Gina 6, that's a case that's going on right now, were youth who were defending themselves against racists in a racist southern town where nooses were hung from a tree, and they defended themselves, and they're in jail right now. What we have to say is we have to say they have the right to self-defense. Because you're not, as a human being, everyone has the right to defend themselves from racists. The abortion clinics need to be protected. A woman has the right to get an abortion if she wants to, and they need to be protected from those who would take women's rights away. And basically, right now, we also need to defend those who are in prison. Sharon has been working on a case of the Lucasville Five, and these are prisoners who took over their prison when the conditions were horrific. They seized control of their prison, demanded better humanity, and for that, 5 of them are on death row now, and we would consider them, like Mumia Abu-Jamal, who was also on death row. These are people who are on death row for fighting back. They're on death row for fighting back against the system, and we should defend them with everything we got. And we should also defend those who are everyone on death row, because no one should be murdered by a government that is this corrupt and this immoral and should not have the power to kill anybody. Until we see society, until there's true democracy, I don't want anyone to be killed by a government that speaks for us when it's really run by this ruling class. So basically, we can see the new state all around us. That's the message here. The Soviets, we're not at that point yet, but the new state we can see all around us. We can see this new state at anti-war marches. We can see when hundreds of thousands confront this racist immoral war. We can see the new state in Detroit when people are putting people back in their homes and asserting that a roof over your head is a right. We can see the new state is here, all in this room, as we're here tonight, demanded better humanity. And for that, 5 of them are on death row now, and we would consider them, like Mumia Abu-Jamal, who was also on death row. These are people who are on death row for fighting back. They're on death row for fighting back against the system, and we should defend them with everything we got. And we should also defend those who are everyone on death row, because no one should be murdered by a government that is this corrupt and this immoral and should not have the power to kill anybody. Until we see society, until there's true democracy, I don't want anyone to be killed by a government that speaks for us when it's really run by this ruling class. So basically, we can see the new state all around us. That's the message here. The Soviets, we're not at that point yet, but the new state we can see all around us. We can see this new state at anti-war marches. We can see when hundreds of thousands confront this racist immoral war. We can see the new state in Detroit when people are putting people back in their homes and asserting that a roof over your head is a right. We can see the new state is here, all in this room, as we're here.